Hello world, welcome to Coding After Effects JSX series. In this tutorial series, I want to go over JSX, how to use it, how to extract data from it, and also how to create this timecode using JSX. Next, I'm going to show you how I created this timecode with only using 2 lines of code in my expression editor. We will also be going over expressions in the new JavaScript engine. So if all of this sounds good and exciting to you, stay tuned to this series and also to this video. Y'all, let's learn some JSX. So for this first video on JSX, it's going to be a little bit of a mixture of an overview mixed in with a tutorial, if that makes any sense. But before we get into that, I would like to give out a shout out to Joel Pitwell, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly, for commenting on my global variable video, which led me to learn JSX. First off, what is JSX? JSX is a superset of JavaScript which allows you to use HTML and XML in your JavaScript. And before you take your mouse and move to another tutorial, hold your horses for a second. You don't have to learn HTML or XML to learn JSX in relationship to using it in After Effects. As a matter of fact, you will not be using HTML or XML at all. So what about learning JavaScript? Well, if you know expression or you are learning expressions from this channel, then you already know JavaScript, because expression was created based off of the JavaScript language. The million-dollar question now would be, why is JSX worth learning? Well, 1, it allows us to use our code globally, and I'll go over why this is important later. 2, it allows you to save your code and use it for a later project. 3, we can use JSX to import a library, and again, I'll show the power of a library later in this video. And 4, it allows us to import data from a JSON format, a client JSX file, or an API from a site, so we can create or animate a chart, pie, or graph with that data. One last thing, as mentioned earlier, JSX allows us to use code globally. What this means is, no matter what layer or composition I'm in, I can use that same exact code anywhere in my project. And if you watch some of my older videos, I talk about global variables and also show how to use your code globally. But out of these methods, I felt this one is the best with the least amount of problems. Now, enough talking about it. Let's take a look at a JSX file and have a better idea of what we're dealing with. I know for most people who ever looked inside of their JSX file, this looks very different from your everyday JSX file, huh? So what are we looking at? We have a anonymous fat arrow function right here that's returning a object, and in that object we have something called framework, which is a function that is returning an object. Each one of these key items in the object will give us a value. In case of minutes double, we will get a function as a value. And yes, this is very confusing. My intent is not to confuse you, but to let you see how JSX looks as a library and show you the code that I'll be using later on. Before we go any farther, let me explain what a library is. A library is a reusable piece of code that offers certain functionality. In our case, this is a time library that I've created that allows us to use pre-made functions related to time that we can use in After Effects. As more libraries appear, it may not look exactly like this, but for the foreseeable future, a lot of this might be standard for a while. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's go back to After Effects and create the time code using JSX and expression. So in the project folder, I'm going to go in and create a new composition and name it main. keep this black. And inside my main composition, I'm going to create a new solid. And I'm going to name it Timecode. And I'm going to give it a darker blue. And now I'm going to go inside of our effects, and I'm going to go to text, timecode. And once I do that, as you can see in the composition, we get a little timecode right here. I can make it bigger by going to text size. Whoop. I can also get rid of this this little background part by clicking on here, but for now I'm just going to leave it in just for people could see it a little bit better. This controls the color of it. I can make it red if I want to, but I'm not. And I can also get rid of the composition in the background and just make it transparent. So this is all the things we can do with the timecode effect. And if I push play, you can see we're getting the same time as we have in the composition. This is cool, but just using After Effects timecode, we do lose a lot of options that come with the standard text layer, like choosing a font family like Helvetica, Comic Sans, Arial, or something you might have imported into After Effects. You can't control the text boldness or give it some type of italic style to it. You also lose the options of displaying what part of the timecode that you want to show, like the seconds or minute. If you do just want to show that part, you can use a mask, but that's doing a lot of work. Yeah, you can also use another effect called, where is it? Numbers, that give you a little bit more options, but at the same time, you're still limited on the things you can do with it. And this is where creating a timecode using expressions kind of come in handy. The first thing I want to do is I want to import our JSX file. So I'm going to go in and look for it. And where is it? That's not it. This is the one. Boop. And now I'm going to create a layer, a text layer. Type in JSX, Control Enter. I'm going to go inside of my source text property, alt click on the stopwatch. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be using the new JavaScript code. So if you want a more in-depth explanation on what's going on, you can check out my video on the new JavaScript Engine variables and also the string literal template. But for now, I'm going to explain a little bit, but I'm not going to be going in detail on everything with the new JavaScript Engine. The first thing we want to do is we want to grab the JSX file and actually extract the information into our source text. And the way we can do this is by creating a variable and typing in footage. Then inside the parentheses, I'm going to type in time AE JSX. Then at the end, source data dot framework parentheses time frame no time 2 frames. Oh, I forgot to give my variable a name, so I'm getting an error right there. And I'm going to name it Timecode. So if I get out of here, that error should be gone. And this code, all it's doing is basically importing our JSX into the source text property. And where this framework is coming from, it's coming from our JSX right here. By putting dot framework, we're able to access it. And the time part and the time to frame function is just there, so we can use those properties inside of this function. So now I want you to focus on this section right here. And I want you to look at the key values like frames, frames double, seconds, seconds double, and frame rate and minute double. And the reason behind this is because these are the values that I'm going to be using in After Effects to create my time code. So in the next line, I'm going to type in time code dot frames. And what this is going to allow us to grab is the frame that the time indicator is on within that second. If I scrub or play the preview, you can see the frames in the timecode effect match the frames from our JSX library. So when it's 2 right here, it's 2 right here, and if it's 15 right here, it's 15 right here. Now I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to press backtick, which is located at the top left of your keyboard next to the number 1. And I'm going to type in 00 colon 00 colon $, curly brackets. And these brackets, I can use expressions and use variables while being inside of the string. So I'm going to grab the second double from the library, and outside of these brackets type colon $, brackets with curly brackets, and this time I'm going to grab frame double. And if I click out of here, you can see that I've now imitated the timecode effect by using expressions. And the advantage of doing it this way, if I click on my JSX layer, I can use my text properties to change it if I want to. So I can increase the font size, I can increase the spacing or decrease it as much as I want. I can change the font, something happened. There we go. I'm just going to change it back. And I can do a lot of other things. Make it bold, slant it. And also, if I want to make changes like only show the seconds in the frame, I can just go in here and just get rid of these zeros. I can also play around with the zero in front of this one by going in and changing this to just seconds thanks to the framework. So now if I play it, there's no zero in front of there. And I can do a lot of things. And basically thanks to the library that I'm using. And that is all for now for this overview of JSX. JSX libraries are cool, and I hope other people create some too. I will also be putting a link to where you can download this library. Even though it's not complete, you can still use it on your projects and add to it or subtract from it that you want to use or you don't want to use from the library. And I hope you learned something. And if you enjoyed this video, check out my older videos. And until the next time, peace out, world.